Yeah.
Okay, good morning to the viewers, listeners, this morning out there on the World Wide Web who are joining us today for our weekly press conference. Today is Friday the 12th, 2023. Um, the opposition is doing our weekly press conference. I'm joined this morning. As you know, my name is David Lee. I'm the Member of Parliament for Point de Pierre. I'm joined this morning by my esteemed, honorable colleague, the Member of Parliament for Chaguanas West, Dinesh Rambali. I'm so happy to join you here, for you to join me on this morning, or maybe it's the other way around, Dinesh, for me to be part of this press conference with you at my side. So this morning, viewers out there, listeners, today we'll be discussing a couple of critical issues that have been developing over the past few weeks, especially the whole entire debacle tragedy, if you want to say, use those words, to a citizen, Brent Thomas, that took place in Trinidad, ended up in Barbados, and from Barbados back to Trinidad. I know my colleague MP Rambali will touch a bit on that, and it came up, that whole issue was discussed in the Parliament on Wednesday when we were there to discuss the $3.8 billion additional that this government is requesting from you, the taxpayers of Trinidad and Tobago. When it is my turn, I will ask Dinesh to start off first, and then I will just come in and discuss a bit about the energy, especially where the opposition feels that we are being overcharged at the gas stations, at the fuel pumps, what we pay for fuel in our country at this point in time, based on the price of a barrel of oil that is today somewhere about $70 a barrel. So I will get into that discussion later on. But let me just turn over to Dinesh. So I know Dinesh is eagerly awaiting, as they say, chomping at the bit to get into that whole issue with Brent Thomas, etc. So thank you again. I turn over to Dinesh.
Thank you, Chief Whip. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this morning. I must say that I do appreciate the generous sentiments expressed by my Chief Whip. It is always my pleasure and honor to be in his presence. And I know, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the media, both Dr. David Lee and myself, in his capacity as Chief Whip, I'm sure, as well as being Member of Parliament, it is always our privilege to be instructed or mandated, so to speak, by the Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Mrs. Kamala Prasad-Sessa, to engage in these press conferences, because this is where we see and we feel that it is our role and our duty to account to you in holding the government accountable to the people. So this is something that we intend to do this morning, and I thank all of you for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, as our citizens are being assaulted with impunity, our democracy is being assaulted by the government. Over the past 2.5 years, we have watched the Rowley-led government say and do things that are unprecedented for any democratic society. We are overrun by a crime wave authored by the Rowley-led government's incompetence. Just have a look at today's headlines in the various newspapers. And I start with the Guardian newspaper, front page. Look at this, and it has the caption heading in red: deadly invasion. Man, girlfriend killed as gunmen storm house. Daughter, 12, fights for her life at hospital. Then there are other side headlines as well. When you get into the other articles on the inside, couple killed during home invasion. Daughter 12 fighting for life after bullet to the head. Man killed during brazen daylight. Hit in St. Helena. Hail of bullets missed daughter tree in car's backseat. These are the headlines, and all of them carry the relevant details. Diego mom of 5 identified as QPS Queen's Park Savannah murder victim. So this is the Guardian, and I want to turn quickly to the Express newspapers. The Express as well, and you will see on the top, well, my top left-hand corner here, Claxton Bay couple killed in bed. Other headline, father murdered, toddler escapes. Police confirm identity of body found as 25-year-old mom of 5. Couple killed in home invasion. Dad shot dead in car. Girl tree escapes. So it corresponds with the other headlines, but it is critical to point out this is what yet again we are plagued with in terms of our headlines. Absolutely no sense of positivity when we see these kinds of headlines, and it speaks volumes as to how we are treating with the crime situation. How is the government failing? And this is something that we have to speak about. Newsday newspaper, children in line of fire. This is the headline in this one. Children in line of fire. Girl 12 shot in head. Mom, friend gunned down. Girl 3 in car riddled with bullets. Father shot dead. These are the stark headlines that we have to deal with. So ladies and gentlemen, our people are dying at the hands of criminals with guns, and with them the spirit of our democracy. But today, I leave the crime just aside for a moment. We see that there's another way in which our democracy is being assaulted, and that is by leaders who are prepared to subvert the very processes, constitutional and otherwise, which they ought to protect. But as the government seeks to destroy, we in the opposition, Dr. David Lee and myself and our parliamentarian colleagues led by Mrs. Prasad Bisessa, but as the government seeks to destroy, we in the opposition will do what we must to preserve and protect. And as your government in waiting, we are prepared to defend and protect our constitution. We will fight at all costs to ensure that your fundamental rights are not trampled upon by the Rowley-led government. And one of the most egregious examples of that assault is found not in the brutality of the streets, but the brutality in the halls of power, where the weapons are not bullets, but paper and process. And this is why we have chosen what is really a constitutional scandal, the Brent Thomas abduction scandal. I refer immediately to an article published in today's Express newspaper at page 5 by Anna Ramdas, titled Locked in a Black Hole. And this is the article here, Locked in a Black Hole. Brent Thomas relives the horror of being arrested in Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados. This article really speaks volumes. And if you just simply look at the rubric captions throughout this article, it says Black Hole, State of Terror, held at Eastern Correctional Rehab Center. And what it speaks to is the inhumane, the high-handed, the unwarranted level of aggression leveled against a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago by none other than Trinidad and Tobago Police Service officers. And this is what went before the courts. The challenge to procurement of warrants, the challenge to the issuance of warrants, the challenge to this whole idea and implementation of Lord alone knows what conspiracy to go into Barbados, conspire with officers there and officials there, and I say that potentially, and then come here now and you abduct one of your own citizens to bring him back to Trinidad. And when you read this, I want to tell people that on Wednesday, the Attorney General abused, and I will get into it some more, but abused the privilege of the Parliament. He abused the freedom of speech that we are permitted in the Parliament, something that I know Chief Whip will be dealing with in the Parliament as well. But for now, what I want to say is that whilst he purported to read what he thought was, helping and what he claims to be helping the citizenry, he was really conveniently dissecting with the aim of distraction. He didn't tell people that all that has been recalled, and this article spells it out, all of these matters that have been recalled, the inhumane treatment, the torture of this citizen, Brent Thomas, it is not contested. There was nothing in the court proceedings to say otherwise. They did not deny, they did not dispute that this gentleman, a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, was treated worse than what we say, a stray dog. This is how he was treated, right? The worst conditions that you could subject a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago to. They did not dispute it, they did not contest it. But the Attorney General didn't see it fit to put that in his ministerial statement when we were in Parliament on Friday. This morning I want to discuss this very serious matter that strikes at the heart of the Constitution and the rule of law in Trinidad and Tobago. And this abduction of a private citizen, Brent Thomas from Barbados, by arms of the Rowley-led government and the Barbados government, and forcibly putting him on a CARICOM aircraft and bringing him to Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, on the 25th of April 2023, our country learned that 3 police officers traveled to Barbados and committed this act, which was appropriately described in the case before Justice Rampersad as an abduction. This brutality pales in comparison with a barrage of bullets. It is a breach of the rule of law. If it is left unchecked and unquestioned, it will have severe consequences for the fundamental rights of citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and the ability to enjoy our fundamental rights. The Rowley-led government's response was predictable. The Prime Minister, as usual, claimed to have no prior knowledge of this fiasco. He even went so far as to say that he didn't even bother to read the High Court judgment in the Brent Thomas case. So evidently, the Prime Minister, as head of the National Security Council, felt no need to read a court judgment which directly impacts on the functioning of the national security apparatus. So Dr. Rowley's defense in this matter is that he is too incompetent to have been involved. Dr. Rowley went on to point the finger at the Commissioner of Police, and then quite coincidentally went on a golfing trip in Barbados, which of course was, according to him, was purely a personal vacation and in no way an attempt to try and cover up this perversion of justice. As our honorable leader of the opposition herself, a former Prime Minister, she made clear, a Commissioner of Police cannot authorize police officers to engage in an operation outside the jurisdiction without informing the government via the Minister of National Security. That is unheard of. It does not occur. Ladies and gentlemen, let's play a game where we suspend common sense and pretend Keith Rowley is being truthful.
That's very difficult.
That is very difficult. This would then clearly mean that either Commissioner of Police Erla Christopher or Minister Fitzgerald Hines, or both of them, are lying and have broken the law. But Ms. Christopher has just been given a 1-year extension on her position as top cop. And Minister Hines, as we all know, remains comfortably in his post when bloodshed and home invasions flow across the nation, as portrayed in the headlines this morning. On Wednesday, our colleague, MP for Orupuch East, Dr. Munilal, asked Minister Hines if he has questioned Ms. Christopher over this incident. The minister's response was that he received an oral report on this matter and that was it. Citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, we need to see, and we need to clearly see, what is happening in our country when a Prime Minister, a Minister of National Security, and Commissioner of Police can have no qualms about refusing to explain to the public about a serious breach of the law for which there must be accountability. We have to give our Barbadian counterparts a lot of kudos. Their Attorney General, and presumably on a direct request from the Barbadian Prime Minister, Ms. Mia Motley, They have already gotten the information and been able to put out a report in the public domain as to what, in their estimation, would have taken place. But here in Trinidad, we have Minister Hines, who says he was thoroughly and at length, he spent a lot of time listening to orals from the Commissioner of Police. So, and yet the public has no answers to the questions which we seek. Leader of the opposition, and this is the point I want to turn to quickly. Leader of the opposition and the United National Congress have acted in the public's interest in seeking accountability in this matter, and as an extension of seeking that accountability, in writing the Prime Minister of Barbados. In the public interest, we in the UNC have acted to find the facts in this matter. I dare say if we were not doing it, a lot of these things would not find its way into the media reports. Yesterday, the leader of the opposition released a statement saying that she has formally written to the Prime Minister of Barbados, asking for an investigation into the matter. Dr. Rowley, in one of his rants or fits, Dr. Rowley has since issued a statement condemning the opposition leader's actions. But that's not what he said on Tuesday. So I want to go ask kindly our technical persons that if they could show the video of Dr. Rowley's presser.
To also write to the Prime Minister on the seeking some answers as it relates to the Brent Thomas matter, the involvement of the Asian police and authorities. We won't discuss that.
That's a matter for the opposition leader and for the Prime Minister of Barbados. I have no thoughts on that, and this matters not to me. If the opposition leader wants to talk to the Prime Minister of a Caribbean country, she's free to do so.
Let's run it one time.
The opposition leader has indicated the intention to also write to the Prime Minister on the seeking some answers as it relates to the Brent Thomas matter, the involvement of the Asian police and authorities. We won't discuss that.
That's a matter for the opposition leader and for the Prime Minister of Barbados. I have no thoughts on that, and this matters not to me. If the opposition leader wants to talk to the Prime Minister of a Caribbean country, she's free to do so.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you were able to hear, the language, the words, but that is a clip of the Prime Minister's press conference held on Tuesday earlier this week. So on Tuesday at the Prime Minister's presser, Dr. Rowley said that he had no views on the opposition leader writing to the Barbadian Prime Minister. And then he went further to say that the opposition leader was free to write to whomever she chooses. And that is what he has on the record. Now he is saying that this is an out-of-place intrusion by the leader of the opposition. Why the sudden change of heart, Mr. Prime Minister? I know in the past I have found, and I know we in the opposition, we have found Prime Minister Rowley to be lacking in empathy with all this bloodshed and blood flowing and children dying, mothers being killed, fathers, leaving home to ply their trade and not returning home. And we found that this government, and we still continue to find that this government is being uncompromisingly unpatriotic. And we have found Dr. Rowley to be indifferent to a lot of things in national security too. But this is like political, he's being politically bipolar, saying something on Tuesday and coming on Thursday night, and then all of a sudden having a sudden change of heart and saying this is an out-of-place intrusion and has one government. We agree it has one government right now, but the government is not acting. Are you afraid, Dr. Rowley, that the government of Barbados will now reveal something you want to keep hidden?
Yeah.
I will say a little bit more on that later, ladies and gentlemen. But this instance perfectly encapsulates all we have gotten from this Rowley-led government. Lies, obfuscation, and the suppression of the truth. I urge all those watching right now to follow Mrs. Prasad Bisessa's example and to write to the Prime Minister of Barbados, demanding that an investigation into this matter take place in a very comprehensive and a meticulous matter, and that it be conducted and completed urgently. They say, ladies and gentlemen, that the pen is mightier than the sword. I urge everyone in our country to take up their pen, write to the Commissioner of Police and demand an expedited investigation into this matter. Write to Dr. Rowley demanding an explanation as to why his government broke the law. And also write to Ms. Mia Motley asking for answers on this issue which affects your constitutional rights. Why not? It is said that dictators view the rule of law and the constitutional rights and freedoms of citizens not as sacred principles, but as troublesome and annoying hindrances, which is why they treat the rule of law with scant regard. And talking about treating the rule of law with scant regard, I want to turn to A.G. Amor. A.G. Amor is a necessary accomplice in this assault on the Constitution as he is the country's chief legal officer. So this is something that we have to look at his conduct and his statements in this matter. I want to say though that never has the reputation of an Attorney General fallen so precipitously in such a short space of time as that of Mr. Reginald Amor, Senior Counsel. I saw an article earlier this week where I think I saw Mr. Israel Khan, eminent Senior Counsel, saying, you know, that all the silks should return their silk. But I want to tell Mr. Israel Khan that may not be necessary. We just need Reginald Amor to return his silk. There is no shortage of ways in which Mr. Amor has brought the office of the Attorney General into disrepute, but his actions in Parliament last Wednesday represent a shameful low. After 2 weeks of silence on this issue, the AG re-emerged. He emerged on Wednesday to launch an unprecedented and disgusting attack on the presiding first instance judge who ruled in this matter. In a clear abuse of the Parliament's privilege, Amor went on to discuss the merits of his appeal. I say his appeal, he's the AG versus Brent Thomas, thereby creating a real and substantial danger to the fair determination of the matter. Furthermore, AG Amor brought the conduct and function of the judge into question without laying a substantive motion to do so before the Parliament. Dr. David Lee will tell you Order 48. 8. Yes, speaks to that. You have to bring a substantive motion to give the proper notice and that the Parliament knows the full extent of the ambit, what you are seeking to challenge. But this is all in breach of the parliamentary practice. And as I indicated earlier, the opposition will be treating with this courtesy MP David Lee before the Parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, this Attorney General, Reginald Amor, has demonstrated time and time again that he has nothing but contempt for the rule of law. He continues to be a disgrace to the office of the AG. And as I move away from him, I want to say that this is a copy of the ministerial statement that the Attorney General delivered on Wednesday. And as I said, it was abuse of Parliament privilege. And I want to say that he spoke about a lot of things. He dissected, he quoted from affidavit. He said that judges are prone to get it wrong at first instance. And so I don't know what could be a clearer attack and you know, abuse of Parliament to go on a tangent to start speaking in that tone. It is reminiscent of Minister Hines, which I will deal with in due course. What he did not say, and which he should point out clearly, when the attorneys for the Attorney General led by eminent senior counsel, when those attorneys went before Justice Rampasad and they were arguing on behalf of the Attorney General, the very opening first paragraph of their written submissions conceded that the actions of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service in how they brought back Brent Thomas was unlawful. The first paragraph, their opening salvo, you're fighting a case. And you are fighting, our system is an adversarial system. Our court system is not, you know, wholly inquisitorial, it's more adversarial. And so if you are going, your opening salvo is your biggest point. And their opening submission, I call on him to deny that. Being led by senior counsel, and a whole battery of lawyers who maybe they will be capitalizing on the $190 million supplementation or in the recent appropriation supplementation bill. Their first paragraph was that they conceded that the actions of the TTPS was unlawful. Now you tell me, what could be a bigger disgrace? And as though you're coming now by this ministerial statement to somehow divorce yourself as the litigant, the substantive litigant, defendant in the matter, as though that cannot be tied to you. That's what he was trying to do. And ladies and gentlemen, what really is going on in this matter? And I want to go now to what I will describe as an orchestrated litany of excuses. I am tempted to say lies, but I will say an orchestrated litany of excuses. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, let me share with you what we in the UNC have been able to determine about this matter. When a crime has been committed, establishing a timeline is essential to determine how and when the said crime was committed and how the perpetrators attempted to cover their tracks. I want to go over the timeline of the constitutional crimes committed by the government. And in this timeline, I will supply it to members of the media, and we will post it up as the case may be, subject to the technical team saying it is the ability to do so. We'll post it up for citizens to look at the timeline, because time will not permit me to go through it in detail. But what the timeline of events show us is that the entire episode, starting with the 3rd of October 2022 and coming forward, you have a situation where you can see, I want to get the dates correct, where we see that the abduction of Mr. Brent Thomas was something that was not just random. So it was not an episode. The entire episode was not a random series of events. The timeline shows that this was a planned and orchestrated operation by the state on the constitutional rights and freedoms of a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. I say of a citizen because I do not know Brent Thomas. A lot of us don't know who this person is. But what we identify with is that he is a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. The subsequent actions of Dr. Rowley, his Minister of National Security, the Commissioner of Police, and the Attorney General, when called upon to account, are part of an attempt to conceal a series of disastrous blunders. The government's entire response to the scandal is clearly an orchestrated litany of excuses. So I want to ask now, another indemnity. This morning I want to ask Dr. Rowley, I want to ask him something. We know your government gave an indemnity to one Vince Nelson, and the taxpayers of this country are paying a hell of a price for your government doing so. This morning we in the opposition want to ask one clear and simple question. When you travel to Barbados on your personal vacation, did you also arrange for an indemnity to the Barbados government and for all of the Bajan officials involved in the abduction of Brent Thomas? In other words, has the cabinet or any of its members recommended or given any indemnity to any person or entity of Barbados and or CARICOM for the wrongful and unlawful actions of the TTPS or any agents and or servants of Trinidad and Tobago involved in the abduction of Brent Thomas? We want to know the answer to that. We really want to know what is going on. Because on the one hand, you go there, Prime Minister Rowley goes suddenly to Barbados on this golfing trip. Suddenly we see that the Attorney General of Barbados puts a statement. As soon as Rowley comes back, he has a statement, and both of them coincidentally are challenging the semantics, the use of the word abduction. I don't even think the AG lawyers within the proceedings challenge the use of the word abduction, but they come in now to make semantics out of that word, the use of the word abduction. That word abduction I will treat with if the media so desires. But I want to say that when you look at that coincidence, and then you look at the fact that what is happening in the days unfolding in the recent days, we want to know what really is taking place. Has there been an indemnity given by the Trinidad and Tobago government to officials and entities of Barbados for unlawful actions that has been relayed in that judgment of Justice Rampasad? Dr. Rowley, I urge you to tell the nation the truth. You won't be able to lie your way out of this fiasco this time. Tell the nation, did you promise an indemnity to officials in Barbados? The truth must come out. I turn now to Minister Hines, and there is finally one more issue here in the Brent Thomas. The most sordid part, however, of this constitutional affair. This is the most loathsome and disgusting part. So naturally, it involves Fitzgerald Hines. When called upon to account for these actions by the state in this matter, Minister Hines responded by saying that the criminals have friends everywhere in the country. They have them in the judiciary. He claimed that the police, customs, immigration, defense force, judiciary, and parliament were some of the places where these friends could be found, friends of the criminals. Unlike Hines, most people in this country understands basic English. And to most people in this country, what Hines said was a clear attack on Justice Rampersad, who presided over the Brent Thomas case, as well as the entire judiciary, an attack on the entire judiciary. When requested by Justice Rampersad to clarify his unjustified statements, Hines refused to attend before the court. This man is a lawyer, and okay, I accept that sometimes you will not want to advise yourself when you are the client, so to speak, on matters of law. But he said he needed legal advice. Why couldn't you get that legal advice? You all just appropriated $190 million to pay legal fees. You couldn't get a lawyer to advise you quickly on an urgent basis and go and see the judge? Hines refused to attend before the High Court. His conduct breaches the rule of law, undermines the independence of the judiciary, and erodes the already waning public confidence in the administration of justice. Hines' contemptuous behavior towards Justice Rampersad and independent institutions follows that of his leader and Prime Minister. It is unbelievable and unacceptable by any decent standards. So we shudder to think what the ordinary citizens think of him. And on that note, where is the Law Association? Why have we not also heard from the Chief Justice? In all of this, we are not hearing from the Law Association. The Law Association has a statutory mandate to defend democracy and protect the rule of law, the administration of justice. Its role is not limited to administrative matters arising from the profession, for example, treating with payment of attorneys' annual fees and subscriptions, etc. I mean no disrespect to the Law Association. It must act in the public's interest. Call an urgent meeting. We know you all operate with limited resources. We know the council members are part of a team that volunteers, so to speak, subject to the mandate, getting a mandate from the profession. You offer yourself to serve. The mandate gives you, the profession gives you a mandate, and you all serve as council members. But this is one of those matters where you cannot afford to wait for a fortnightly, or if it is a monthly meeting that you would have, executive meeting, what we call Council of the Law Association meeting. You all have to have that urgent meeting and resolve how you intend to treat with Minister Hines' assault on the administration of justice. So this is something that we are calling on the Law Association. But in addition to Minister Hines being a minister, he is an attorney at law, and he has breached the code of conduct detailed in the Legal Profession Act. So you, Law Association, have a legal duty to uphold the code of conduct and to speak out vociferously in defense of the Constitution, the rule of law, and all of the principles which flow from these. This is your remit, Law Association. I humbly submit to you that you need to wake up and you need to act in an expedited manner. Act with diligence. Why are we not hearing from the Honorable Chief Justice? Is the Chief Justice comfortable with the fact that Minister Hines has said that he, Chief Justice, and all of the masters, the registrars, and the judges, including the justices of appeal, are somehow linked to criminals? Hines has acted in contempt of court, and he should be severely reprimanded. I accept in legal terms it will not be deemed contempt in the face of the court, but it is a contempt, and he should be reprimanded for this conduct. It is an insult to the population that Hines continues to hold a ministerial portfolio, let alone national security. Both him and Dr. Rowley are shameless, ladies and gentlemen. I know in the interest of time, I stop here now and will. My chief whip says to proceed, right? But my initial speaking time has now expired, and so what I will do is that I will wait for the extension after Dr. David Lee when the media wants to ask questions. So I hand over to the Honorable Chief Whip, Dr. David Lee, Member of Parliament for Point of Pierre, someone who I have the greatest esteem for, and I would like to hand over to you, Doc.
Thank you, Dinesh, for that tremendous enlightenment, and you have brought out some critical matters that the public and the media, especially the media, needs to keep on the front burner, because this Brent Thomas affair has a lot more in it than we know, and I just want to put things in a little bit in context, Dinesh, and you can tell me if I'm wrong before I move on to my part of the presentation, before it gets lost. This government is saying that they knew nothing about this entire Brent Thomas affair, the abduction of him going from Barbados to Trinidad. All right, the Minister of National Security has gone on record, says he knows nothing about it. The Prime Minister said he knows nothing about it. Now, this is our citizen. Mr. Thomas is a businessman. He has been a businessman in the legal firearms industry for, I think, more than 30 odd years. He has dealt with governments, supplying to the governments, whether it was a PNM government. Yeah, I think he has supplied the PNM government a lot more because they have been in power a lot more. And he has been legally as a businessman for all these years. And it is passing strange that all of a sudden Mr. Thomas is in the situation that he is in today. And I want to just put out a couple of things there. As I'm not a lawyer, I'm not as that's not my forte. But as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, who is this government really fooling? Is they trying to fool a normal man to say that they knew nothing about the abduction of Brent Thomas, that the police in our country can go over to Barbados, bring a plane from Barbados to Trinidad, go on that plane goes to Barbados, abducts a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago with the Barbados police, from what I've read in all the articles, with the Barbados Police Department, put this gentleman on a plane that is not owned by Trinidad and Tobago, comes back to Trinidad and Tobago, brings back the citizen, Mr. Thomas, to Trinidad and Tobago without immigration being aware, or the approval of immigration, the approval of customs and excise, and brings back this individual to lock him up in a jail in Trinidad and Tobago. Is this government trying to tell us they were not aware of this? Right? And I just want to put it, I was talking to someone, and they said to bring back a body, a loved one, if they died abroad, into Trinidad to be buried. The amount of approvals that one has to go through to get that body back into Trinidad to be buried. I understand you have to get the Minister of Health involved, approval from the Minister of Health. You have to get the Minister of Foreign Affairs involved. Then you have to get the Minister of National Security approval. Then you have to get immigration approval. Then you have to get, when the body arrives, Custom and Excise Division has to be involved for that body to be able to land in Trinidad and Tobago. and look at all the approvals for your loved one who might have passed away in another island, another country. And you're telling me you're going to Barbados to abduct a citizen and bring him, and this government, nobody gave approval?
Well, Doc, 2 points I want to make to what you have raised. One is all of those matters that you have spoken to. I know you have summarized it, so you're not getting into the evidence, but all of those matters remain undisputed. Those facts of how Mr. Brent Thomas was brought into the country, the fact that you had TTPS, local police officers, chartering the plane and whatever, and going to Barbados and cooperating, having Barbadian police detain Mr. Brent Thomas and then acting in concert with each other, how they brought back Brent Thomas. Those matters remain undisputed, unchallenged by Trinidad and Tobago. So that is number one. So when we say it, I want people to understand, we are not surmising this, these are the undisputed facts. And this now leads to, this is why we elevate and we give so much weight to it, that how could you have this level of unlawful activity take place without the Ministry of National Security apparatus being aware? You must have high official authorization to do those things.
Correct.
So my answer to you, in short, is one, either there are a lot of corrupt practices engaged here in this abduction of Brent Thomas, or the highest levels of incompetence, which in itself speaks to corruption in high office. And so this government cannot simply say, we don't hold administrative control over some of these things. Has no distinction here between administrative and substantive power and exercise of power. The fact is, it has to be authorized by the highest officials, and that had to be done. So you cannot divorce yourself from the whole scenario, which is what we see the Minister of National Security and the Prime Minister seeking to do, and the Attorney General himself getting on board with this. And that's why I say, Doc, it is really a litany of excuses. And this is something that, it is just a series of steps being taken now to cover up serious blunders, administrative and or otherwise. So I agree with you, but
thank you.
They cannot run away from this.
It's very difficult for me now, listeners and viewers, to come after my colleague, Mr. MP Rambali, after that entire the points that he raised. Now, I have a couple points to be raised, and I hope I can keep the attention of the listeners and the viewers out there. On Wednesday this week, ladies and gentlemen, we came to Parliament on Wednesday. The government brought us to Parliament to really ask you, the citizens, for an additional $3.8 billion more to what was already passed in the budget back in October 2022 of 57 plus billion. And at the end of the day, it will carry up their budget, their fiscal budget, to somewhere $62 billion, Dinesh. Right? $62 billion that this government is asking you, the citizen, to spend, and nothing to show for it. We discuss in Parliament value for money. Is a country feeling a $62 billion budget? And I would say no. But further to add, Dinesh, in my presentation, in my response to the Minister of Energy, I raised some issues, and I just want to stick with one issue here today. To inform the public, the opposition is of the view, and I see I'm in the papers today, Dinesh. I hope you don't get jealous. You normally be in the papers all the time. And I just want to start off my presentation here this morning, and I want to say, and the headline says, Lee, which is me, have citizens been overcharged at the fuel pumps? All right, so basically what I have said, and I'm asking this government to come clean with the citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago. Are we being overcharged at the fuel pumps at our gas stations? Now, and I will get into my presentation here on this issue. This morning, the opposition, UNC, has come to demand justice. I have come to demand justice on behalf of every single taxpayer of this nation who has been severely burdened by the increase in the price of fuel, not over the last 7 months, but not only the price of fuel, but everything has escalated in our country. This morning, I demand honesty, we are demanding transparency, and most of all, we are demanding an immediate action from Minister Imbert as it relates to the fuel subsidy at our gas stations. This morning, we are calling on Minister Imbert to stop running from the opposition. This is a Minister of Finance, Dinesh, who responds to every single criticism. You know that, right? Yes. Yet in the last 48 hours, when I challenged him in Parliament in my debate to ask him if we were being overcharged at the gas stations, at our fuel pumps in the gas stations, I challenged him in my debate. Tell us if I am talking shippiness, right? To put it in nonsense. And I asked him in his wind-up, tell me if I am talking nonsense. I am still waiting on his response. And Minister Imbud is an individual who, from the time he sees his name called, and whatever they call it, and he will challenge it. He challenged Professor Hussein the other day when about the IMF report. So I was waiting with a bated breath when he was winding up to say that the member for Pointe-a-Pierre, as usual, is talking nonsense. But he said he was very silent on what I have raised. And I have raised that we are saying that the price of the fuel pump, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago are being overcharged. We are being overcharged. So I'm still waiting on a response from him, Dinesh. This morning, without any fear or favor, the opposition tells this nation the government has been overcharging every single taxpayer for premium and super gasoline over the last 7 months. And you would see today, in this article, crude oil falls to $70.87. $70.87. Right? This morning, we tell the country that the Minister of Finance cannot answer this claim and has failed to answer this claim because the evidence we will present here today again, as we presented on Wednesday, as I presented on Wednesday, is damning and clear. I ask the nation to remember that on April 13th, 2023, on April 13th, 2023, a month ago, Dinesh, yes. I sat right here in a press conference. I don't know if you were with me at that press conference, right? Where I called the Prime Minister to drop the price of fuel because the oil price had fallen. So back in April, I asked, and the article is there, my technical people is saying it, David Lee calls on the Prime Minister, reduce gas price as promised. So the Prime Minister had promised in his debate in October last year that once the price of oil starts to drop, and I will get to the numbers, the Prime Minister had promised that the prices will be reflected. The drop in oil worldwide, the prices at our gas stations would be reflected. We are still waiting on that today. Right? We in the opposition didn't just randomly call for the price of fuel to drop. We were calling on the Prime Minister to follow up on his promise that he made that was published in the newspaper. And I want to show a look at this clip. The Prime Minister, you sure the only Prime Minister can be, the global prices have fallen. Right? Prime Minister TT, fuel prices can be reduced if global prices fall. This is the Prime Minister saying that, right? Yes. And I think he was going on another trip. It looks like somewhere, I think he was coming back or going away again. Going as usual. He's going out of the country as usual. And this was on April 22nd, 2022. Right? So the TT fuel prices can be reduced if global prices fall. This is the Prime Minister's words. This is not the opposition words. And we are just trying to ask on behalf of the citizen, keep your promise. Okay? So when we look at on Newsday, another Newsday, 5th of October, the PM based on world prices, local fuel prices could fall. So there's another article, Prime Minister saying based on world prices, local fuel prices could fall. And this is in October 2022, Dinesh. So I've just shown to the audience, to the viewers, three clips, news reports. Not our words, it is the Prime Minister's words. I said once oil prices, world prices drop, our fuel prices at the gas station would also fall. Okay? So in April 23, we in the opposition began making our calls for the Prime Minister this year to reduce fuel as he had promised. But last Friday, Dinesh, as you were with me at the Standing Finance Committee, something very critical occurred. I want all the chambers, all the analysts, all the accounting firms, I want all citizens to pay attention to the following link of events so you can see that the government of Trinidad and Tobago has been dishonest with the people of this nation as it relates to fuel prices at our gas stations. On Friday, the 5th of May, 2023, the Minister of Energy told the Standing Finance Committee that the government estimates that the price of oil going forward will be $80 a barrel. So they announced at the Standing Finance Committee, when I asked the minister certain things, he came out and he said literally that based on how the oil worldwide is dropping, they are now going to utilize a $80 price per barrel, not for revenue, but in respect to fuel and so forth. Okay, I want the country to remember that today, Dinesh, and I know you filled up your tank of gas coming here, you would have been paying $7.75 for premium per liter. Super, we pay presently $6.97 per liter, and super is a choice of gas for most vehicles in Trinidad and Tobago. I know, Dinesh, you might be using premium, at $7.75, but I use super at $6.97. Right?
Doc, I just want to let you know that I use premium. You're right. And before the increases, I would have paid $300 and filled my tank.
Wow. Okay.
Now I have to pay $450 premium to fill my tank.
I will get to that. So that's a good point. All right. So today we are paying, I want to remind the public again, premium $7.75 a liter and $6.97 for super. And though these prices that we are paying today was raised in the budget of late September by the Minister of Finance. Okay, so in 2022 we had two price increases, one in April 2022 and another one in September, October 2022, and that is what we are paying presently. So based on this admission, the Minister of Energy, it is clear that going forward the price of fuel is supposed to drop, because they are using an oil price of $80. Now, the price of oil right now in the market is somewhere between $70 and $71 a barrel. However, I want the country to understand that we in the opposition did not randomly come up with figures that the price of fuel is supposed to be when oil prices fall to $80. We utilized the calculations of the Prime Minister, Dinesh, and the Minister of Finance, which was given to us in Parliament. So for the country's interest, let me inform you of these calculations. So on April 8th, the Honorable Colin Imbert, Minister of Finance, came in Parliament on April 8, 2022, and he came with a ministerial statement, and he had in his adjustment to fuel prices. So on April 8, 2022, the Minister of Finance came to the Parliament to adjust fuel prices, meaning to increase fuel prices on April 8th, right? And he gave a range. And I want to quote Minister Imbert. If unsubsidized, and let us say with that word unsubsidized, meaning that there are no subsidies, all right? The retail price of premium gasoline should vary from $6.18 per liter at an oil price of $80 per barrel to $7.58 per liter at an oil price of $100 per barrel. So what Minister Imbert is saying back then on April 8, 2022, when he came to increase the fuel prices, at that point in time, we were paying less at the pump. So he's saying that if at an oil price of $80 a barrel, for premium, we will be paying should be paying $6.18. These are Imbert's words, right? And if it's at $100 or so a barrel, the price for premium should be $7.58. Right now, we are paying $7.75. Okay, for premium.
Yes.
Okay, so if it was $80 a barrel, based on Imbert's words, we should, for premium, we should be paying $6.18. Right now, we're paying $7.75. An entire dollar and I think $1.56 more. Right? More. Now these are Imbert's words, not my words or your words, Dinesh. Alright? And then I want to talk about super. And he made a statement. Super. If unsubsidized, the price of super gasoline should be $6.09 per liter. And if it was $100 a barrel, we should be paying $7.46. Today, super, we are paying presently $6.97. So at $80 a barrel, what Imbert is saying, we should be paying $6.09 per liter at the gas stations.
Yes.
Right? Today we are paying $6.97. So right away, both super and premium, you can see that we are overpaying,
yes,
or we're being charged by this government more than what they are saying that we should be paid. Okay? These are not our words. I am just following the trail, right? So on October the 4th, it gets worse, right? On October the 4th, 2022, the Prime Minister debated in that budget. And I think you were there. We were all there trying hard to listen to him. and the Prime Minister stated in his budget debate, if the price of oil worldwide drops to $80, premium should drop to $6.28. So the Prime Minister is also substantiating what his Minister of Finance said back in April, and super to 605 at $80 a barrel. And if it drops to $75, right? If the price of oil drops to $75, premium, here this one, premium should drop to $5.68. If the price of oil drops to $75. What we are paying today, $7.75 for premium. The price of oil today is $71 a barrel. And the Prime Minister is saying, if oil price was $75 a barrel, his calculation, the Prime Minister's calculation is saying that premium should drop to $5.68. And super, if it's at $75 a barrel, should drop to $5.43. Today we're paying $6.97 per liter.
Yes.
So that's a big savings if the Prime Minister kept his promise to this country. All right? So today I call on the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance. Tell this country, are these not your words? It's there in the Hansard. Were you misleading the House? And I ask you, were you not misleading the House? Why is the price of fuel still based on a $90 price per barrel, and between $90 to $100 price per barrel? Right? But citizens, it gets worse. The fact is that the price of oil did not simply drop to $80 a barrel recently. The average price of oil, Dinesh, has been below $80 since December 2022. We passed our budget in October, and right after, the world prices started to drop. Now, I know Imbert and the Prime Minister might have thought that the price of oil would have been over $100 based on the Ukraine war. They were banking on that, okay? But the price of oil worldwide has been dropping steadily. So the average price for the last 7 months has been around $79.44. And there's a graph, and we're not making up these numbers. This is the average price for WTI worldwide. It is there. Anybody can go on Google it. It is there. Right? So we have seen a range. Right? So for the last 7 months, the government had full knowledge of the oil price was below $80 a barrel. But what did they do? They charge the people of this nation a fuel price still based on over $90 a barrel, Dinesh. The government of Trinidad and Tobago committed, in our view, highway robbery for the citizenry at the pump. And you know what is difficult to understand, Dinesh? The country, the citizens, we are going through some trying and difficult times. Food prices are out of whack. It's escalating. Every time you go to the supermarket, the prices keep going up, right? And where we could have some savings, especially in our transportation, right? We would, we should be welcoming the prices and changes at the fuel pump, and we should be paying less at the gas stations. Okay, so this is why, and the Prime Minister had promised this country that we would have, when they increased the price of fuel back in September, we would have every month at our gas stations, like how you see it in the States, an average monthly pricing, so that the prices can fluctuate at the gas stations, right, based on the price of oil worldwide. Okay, and that has not come to pass. Today we are asking and saying to the Minister of Finance, for the millions you have overcharged us at the pump in the last 7 months, we want to know what you did with the money, and that overpayment that we have been paying. A long time they used to say that the government is subsidizing the taxpayers at the fuel pump. I think today what has shown that we are subsidizing the government, and now you hear the government wants to through the RIC TNTEC rates they want to increase TNTEC rates, they want to increase water rates, and we are saying we have been subsidizing the country at the pump, at the gas station, Why don't they use some of that money to offset these TNTech rates that they want to increase, that we have been hearing about for the last few months? So we want this government to come clean, to add some honesty and tell us what is the true price we should be paying at the gas stations based on what I have just said. And these are not my words, these are not your words, these are not the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bisesa words. It is there black and white that the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister have promised this country, once the price of oil starts to drop worldwide, we would see that reflected at our gas stations. And today, for the last 7 months, we have not seen it. Today, we have not seen it, and we are calling on the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Energy to come clean and tell us when are we going to see a reduction of the fuel prices to assist the citizenry of our country in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, something I happened to be on another program with you last night, Dinesh, and you brought up a point in the last 24 hours. You seem to be always with me. But you brought up a good point, Dinesh. And I did some calculations. Based on a small car, 50 liters, right, the capacity of a tank, 50 liters. I think that goes for like a Nissan Tiida. I know one of our people here, they drive a Suzuki and so forth, is about 50 liters. That's the capacity. And if they use premium, the higher end, at $7.75 that we are paying right now, to fill up that tank of gas, that tank with premium, it will cost $387.50. I know your vehicle is bigger, Dinesh. And at $50, if you were to reduce that price based on what the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister had said at $6.18, that would cost you, the citizenry, to fill up that tank, $309 if you were using premium. Right. All right, so if they reduce the price based on what they had said on premium, you will be having a savings of roughly $79 every time you fill up your tank. And if you are coming from in central or south of Port of Spain, you might fill up your tank twice a week. Yes. And that is roughly about $160 that you would save. Now transfer 160 by 4 weeks in a month. That's a hell of a lot of savings, right? Given the kind of times that we are living in right now. And if you use super like I do, right, at $50 a small car, super is $6.97. To fill up that car will cost you about $349. And if the price of the fuel goes down to $6.09 as promised by the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister, to fill up your car would be about $304. So you automatically would have a savings between $44 to $45. And if you fill up your car twice for the week, that's close to $100. By 4 times, that's a $400 saving. You know what you can do with that excess savings, given the times that we're in. Now, even at $80 a barrel, with these numbers of 618 that the price for premium should go down, or 609, we are not subsidizing the fuel. We are not subsidizing the fuel. We are paying full price. Okay? So, I want the government to come clean and tell us when they're going to reduce the price of the fuel at our gas stations to assist our citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago, because they promised us that. So I am hoping that they keep their word based on the price of oil that is happening in the world today and for the last 7 months, Dinesh. All right? I can say much more. Minister Young, in his debate on Friday, on Wednesday, was very flat. He brought no new ideas. He brought nothing new about oil and gas production. Oil and gas production has been at the lowest in our history. I thought he would have been, when he came on Wednesday, I thought he would have said that he found new oil and gas, give hope to this country, all right, and stop banking and putting all your baskets in the Dragon gas deal that is years away from happening for this country, Dinesh, right? They came to their budget will be $62 million. Once again, before I end, Dinesh, once again, there's no critical thinking by our chambers in respect to this additional $3.8 billion that this government is asking for. I would have hoped that the chambers and the economists would have really dissected that. And when you really dissect that $3.8 billion, it does not do anything to enhance our economy. It's really that $3.8 billion is a pay off old bills by this government. It's just recurring expenditure. It does nothing for the development of our country. So this government, at the end of the day, will be bringing us $62 billion. And we not even reach the deficit. That deficit could be over $6 billion at the end of the year. Okay? And this is something that our economists, our accounting firms, the chambers are not talking about. They're not being critical thinkers and analyzing this government when they bring budgets. Yes. Right? So that, in closing, I hope that the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister answers my question, the opposition question, based on what is happening in the world price of oil. Why are we not seeing that reflected to assist the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago at the gas stations, Dinesh? Yes. I think I would have covered what I wanted to say. As again, you mentioned it, as we saw on Wednesday, a total disrespect of us and the opposition in Parliament. The Attorney General abused the standing orders of Parliament. He has given free rein to run riot over the standing orders in Parliament, even though we objected because he was bringing the judge in disrepute, in my view, right? And there's a standing order 48.8, as you well aware, that you cannot bring the name of the president, you cannot bring the name of judges in the Parliament. It's not done. It's not done, right? And while we objected vociferously, our objections fell on deaf ear. So, again, with those few words, I think I've covered everything I wanted to say about the fuel prices, that we are calling on this government to come clean with us and start and reduce the prices to help the citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago, to help the normal man to go about their business in Trinidad and Tobago at our gas station. So I thank you. I don't know if you have any questions from the media.
We have a few questions coming. First of all, on the issue of the abduction of Brent Thomas, both Attorney General Amo as well as the attorneys in Barbados are objecting to the use of the term abduction in this scenario. How do you respond?
Well, as I indicated earlier in the press conference, and even Dr. David Lee touched on it a little as well, I think it is something more weighted than saying coincidental that the Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, raised concerns about the judge's use of the term abduction. And then he just goes immediately on a trip to Barbados, and then we see the Barbadian Attorney General talking about, raising concerns about abduction. And what I want to say to that is very simple. Number one, when you bring a claim before the court, and you just simply have to read the judgment that was delivered, the judge in this judgment recites the claim that was brought by Brent Thomas and the second claimant, the other claimant. And in reciting that, they spoke, and he quoted the exact language, and the language that he quoted was that they were seeking inter alia a declaration that the abduction of Brent Thomas was unlawful, unconstitutional, etc., etc. So the judge does not, of his own volition, he does not go on a judicial frolic of his own and invent the term abduction. That is a term which the claimant utilized. The claimant utilized that, and in the judgment itself, it is quite clear that they had recourse to decisions such as Horse Ferry, Road Magistrates Court, Ex parte Bennett. In law, we would just say Ex parte Bennett, 1994, one appeal cases 42. Why I say that and have regard to this legal reference now is that it is established that when you are treating with the let me say, seizure of a person from one country and you carry them to the other country without having the protection of the extradition laws, that is abduction. That is what they call it. You have, so this is what we would call civil, on the civil law, abduction of a person. You have false imprisonment, that is where you are detained against your will and it is wrong. You have detention, unlawful detention. That is, for example, if you go to the police station and at the police station they keep you there without any justification. So you have different terminology that is used for different points of how you are detained against your will and in an unjustified manner. In this case, it is undisputed. The facts surrounding how Brent Thomas was brought back to Trinidad is undisputed. So I really fail to appreciate how it is they can raise these objections when the evidence is undisputed as to how they brought him back. And the sorry, as I said before, the lawyers for the Attorney General representing the Attorney General, they conceded in the case that process, right? That the utility of the methods that was employed to bring back Brent Thomas was unlawful. That is their language, it was unlawful. Against that backdrop, how is it that it is wrong to have the use of the civil term in the civil law, the term abduction? Is it that they are playing semantics with the word abduction, or is it deliberate? And I want to say that it seems as though this, as I say, it is more weighted than saying coincidence that all of them are now picking on the term abduction. Is it that they are sending a signal to the officers who are involved in this matter that these officers can face criminal charges for their conduct in the matter? That is that what is happening here? That is either they're playing semantics. I don't think so. I think they are deliberately sending a subliminal message to all of those officers. You better know what you're saying in relation to accounting for your actions, because you could be facing criminal prosecution in your individual capacity when it comes to this abduction. So I think that is what it really boils down to, with the greatest of respect. So that is my position on the abduction. But the use of the term Trinidad and Tobago, I want to make it abundantly clear to members of the media, that is not something plucked out by the judge, and it certainly was not plucked out by the claimant's lawyers. And it was not objected to within the proceedings, the use of the term. That is an accepted use of terminology when you are dealing with the seizure of persons and transporting them within the, cross-border outside the ambit of what extradition laws provide for.
Actually, the government has insisted that it's moving towards liberalizing the fuel market, which would make your point that we should really be seeing lower fuel prices now as the international prices drop. Given the fact that local fuel prices are not decreasing, does that then point to the fact that the local energy market is not really liberalized, as the government is saying, and is perhaps still very much monopolistic?
Well, it's really, to answer that question, yes, the market is not liberalized as promised by this government. This is not the government had promised to liberalize the fuel market, because they were saying that they couldn't continue paying, the government couldn't continue paying this high fuel subsidy price. And the numbers are there, and the citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago, have been subsidizing this government to meet their budget deficits, because right now we are paying at the pump at our gas station prices based on $90 plus a barrel of oil.
Yes.
And right now it's about 70, 71. And I just showed some calculations that we should be
over other matters that are existing in the appeal court system. Now, there's no point in me going into the test. If the Attorney General is serious and willing to put the millions of dollars of legal fees he has gotten before he became Attorney General for work he did, put it where his mouth is, he would have told us when he abused the parliamentary privilege. He could have told us that they have applied to expedite the hearing of the appeal because they want it heard in the month of May or June 2023. That is what an expedited hearing of an appeal is. I have done expedited hearings of appeals for the Table Tennis Association and other matters as well. And when you go there, that is what the court will ask you. You're asking for an expedited hearing, but when realistically can you prepare your appeal for? And that is the kind of information that the Attorney General, if at all it exists within the application that was filed, he should have brought it in the ministerial statement and put it there. The fact that he did not give those salient details, I think it is telling. Because you see what will happen is you can apply, and even if you succeed and you say, okay, you are to get an expedited hearing, and the court has no time frame within which you are suggesting that you want to have it heard, then what happens? Then the senior counsel who advised in the first place and conceded that the action was unlawful, suddenly his diary is booked up from now till 2024. And the senior counsel on the next side, meaning for the claimant, albeit that he may be willing to get this thing behind Mr. Brent Thomas, on behalf of his client, he too might be booked up because you don't know what circumstances exist. And therefore, just by virtue of those little nitty-gritties, you can have that hearing of that appeal go off till 2024. You tell me what is expedited about that. So the Attorney General owed, if he was going to use a ministerial statement to do what he did, to tell the country that, look, we have applied for an expedited hearing. The lawyers in that application have indicated to the court that we propose, subject to satisfying the test and what have you, that we propose to argue this appeal in the month of June 2023. That is how an expedited hearing of an appeal works. You have to tell the court what you're looking and satisfy the court that why you need to have a jump of the queue ahead of all the existing appeals. A.G. Amos said nothing about those things. So saying that there's an expedited appeal and saying that you have filed a notice of appeal means absolutely nothing when we are talking about the encroachment, the erosion, the trespass against people's fundamental rights. So that is what I would want to say in response to A.G. Amo thinking or suggesting that the fact that he made mention of an expedited appeal application, that should somehow quell our concerns about the rule of law and trampling of people's citizens' rights.
And if I just could add, Dinesh, I listened to the AG, but bits and pieces when he was trying to present his ministerial statement on Wednesday. And to add to what you're saying, if you could bear me out, that the Attorney General is preparing for this matter to go to the Privy Council, because he was saying that he already hired King's Counsel up in England looking and reviewing this matter. So in my humble view, I'm not a lawyer, but maybe they feel that they will lose at the appeal court in Trinidad, and they already put their King's Counsel on notice that this might end up in the Privy Council, or they're going to challenge whatever decision by the Trinidad Court of Appeal that it ends up in the Privy Council. So they have put their King's Counsel, and you know what that means? More legal fees for this country.
Yes, of course.
More legal fees for this country.
That is correct. But what I want to say as well, Dr. David Lee will correct me if I'm wrong, but my assessment of what has taken place in and out of the parliament for the past few days, this week alone, suggests that what you are dealing with is an employment of convenience on the part of the Attorney General and the Prime Minister, whereby on the one hand, they will volunteer. In other words, they will be cooperative in answering questions. But on the other hand, they will want to say, no, the matter is before the court. And therefore it's sub judice, and therefore we don't want to speak about it. That is what we are dealing with. But this matter deserves only accountability. We need candor. We need the full and frank disclosure of what is taking place. And nothing less will suffice to make sure that the population is comforted that their rights will continue to be secure moving forward.
Anthony, you mentioned the need for more chambers of commerce and economists to sort of make their voices heard more with regards to what's happening in the economy. Recently, the Minister of Finance severely criticized economist Roger Hussain, who's a lecturer at UE. Do you think that perhaps one of the reasons why more people are not speaking out is because they are wary of the attacks that may come from them, from the Minister of Finance?
Well, I want to say that I want to thank Professor Hussein. He has now been elevated to professorship at UWI, and he has been, and I think he's a Cambridge trained individual, or Oxford, so. Right? Yes. And so Professor Hussein has been around all governments for a number of years, and Professor Hussein, when he dissected that IMF report, it is damning on this government. It is very damning on this government. And it was so damning that Professor Hussein went so far that in his statement, when he dissected the report, he's asking himself, why am I still in Trinidad and Tobago? He's even considering saying that I should be migrating. And what we are seeing is a lot of young professionals are picking up themselves and leaving this country. Right? We are in a hopeless state, and the chambers and the accounting firms are not doing their jobs for whatever reason. The chambers are not being critical and honest and being analytical with this government policies. When last year have you seen the chamber being critical on crime? Crime is rampant in our country, and just to touch a bit on that. Before I pass over to Dinesh, I saw in today's papers, and I know I was there, that a deadly invasion in Claxton Bay happened yesterday, right? A deadly invasion, and if one was to read the editorial in the Daily Express, I don't know if you in your thing, I just want to read a couple paragraph or two in the Daily Express editorial, and the Daily Express is failing as priority number one. All right, and I just want to read one paragraph inside of there, and maybe just put things in context. At the first paragraph of the Daily Express editorial, it talks about another day of bloody murder, more children without mothers, without fathers, more broken families and broken lives, more murder mysteries to solve or to fade away unsolved. That's the opening paragraph. Yeah. And when you get down into this editorial, right, it talks about the Minister of National Security, Fitzgerald Hines, right? And it states, no amount of thundering declamations against the opposition, families, bad company, and other assorted targets will distract from the single fact that not only does this government have no solution to the problem of crime, but that its failure is so complete that it no longer even attempts to pretend. So the editorial is saying that this government is so hapless in trying to solve crime. They have stopped. They don't even pretend anymore. Yes. It's just a runaway. They have given up. Basically what this editorial is saying. Correct. And then it goes on further. This is very critical and about Minister Hines. And I quote, these are not our words, Dinesh. Yes. And this is the Express editorial. And they're talking about Minister Hines. Perhaps we should also be thankful that Minister Hines sees no role for himself, because the one he seemed most eager to deliver was to lock up the opposition. Yes. Right? These are not our words. Let me repeat that. We should also be, this is the editorial, we should also be thankful that Minister Hines sees no role for himself, because the one he seemed most eager to deliver was to lock up the opposition, as he told journalists following last month's events in San Fernando. And this is a quote from him. If I had a crime plan, this is Minister Hines, and it was up to me, I will lock up all of them who does be talking, starting from the people on the other side in the parliament. Now, no wonder they don't pretend, they give up. Correct. They have given up. This government has given up in trying to solve crime. And I have seen it in a home invasion. Yesterday, a young couple, and you mentioned it, a 12-year-old is fighting for her life in the hospital due to a home invasion, right? And the country, we the citizens need to stand up. We need to stand up against this government and take back our country. We need to take back our country, Dinesh. So that's my little bit on the crime as the MP for Point de Pierre.
Those are all questions.
Let me just add one thing to, and this is a stepping away from crime. A matter, it is, at least I see it on today's Newsday at page 13. And this is coming from Mr. Israel Khan, senior counsel, condemn Hines for attack on judges. So just to add on to the point which we would have raised within our contributions, that what is Mr. Israel Khan is saying, senior counsel, is that he has congratulated those judges who would have spoken out and called for some kind of retraction on the part of Hines. And he also, he made a clarion call to other judges to demand that the Chief Justice on his return from his holiday seeks to really refute, and he is very strong language, nasty opprobrium. So these are things that, you see that eminent senior counsel coming out because it goes to the root of the administration of justice. And he says that, gentlemen and ladies of our legal profession, our democracy is in peril if Fitzgerald Hines remains in the cabinet. Put country first and not your personal self-interest. Country before allegiance to a political party. Country before monetary benefits from the government. For the sake of our children and grandchildren, unite with one voice and protect the judiciary from the likes of Hines. This is very powerful. The Fourth Estate must assist us in our request for justice and in an independent and impartial judiciary.
Who's the Fourth Estate? Remind me. Remind me. The media.
But on that, I wanted to make the point. The question that was relayed to us from the media is that if we thought that persons are not speaking out because they are frightened. Well, I want to say that because their names will be called in the parliament by the self-dubbed financial wizard. If he's a financial wizard, I think he is really more like Voldemort, that kind of wizard, right? But that is Minister Imbert. But if it is that persons are afraid, and that is why they are not speaking out, the reverse, the immediate or direct reverse consequence of that situation where they are not speaking out is that they are endorsing the policies of the government. By their silence, they are endorsing, they are encouraging, they are promoting the policies of this government or lack thereof. So I leave that there, Dr. Lee.
Thank you, Dinesh. I think that brings us to the end of this morning's weekly presser. Before I close, I really would like, on behalf of Dinesh, my MP Rambali next to me, and all the opposition members, and including me, I would like to wish all our mothers a happy Mother's Day on Sunday. Our mothers are a gem to us. I would like to take my personal time here to wish my mother, who is 92 years old, a very happy and loving Mother's Day. And I am sure I will allow Dinesh to use this time to also wish his mother a happy Mother's Day. So, Dinesh, go ahead.
Yes, let me say to my, on a personal level, my own mother, who despite my, wicked ways or mischievous ways, really has been there for me. And I would say happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in our party, all the mothers in our support base, all the citizens, who are mothers. They are the ones who really have been, contrary to what is portrayed sometimes by Minister Hines. We have a large, a majority population of mothers who step up to their role day after day, make the requisite sacrifices to ensure that they bring up their children in a manner that, they will
report that is in Tabaquit will be held in Tabaquit on Monday. I thank you for viewing and listening and stay with us. I don't for our Monday night report.